There's no mistakes, just lessons. And even when there's something very painful that goes on in your life, know you're going to get through it. And when you get through it, it can be a testimony to help others.
Born in 92 on the block with the Sharks. Come from a different cloth, y'all would get ripped apart. You want it diamond, then you gotta get it in the dark. We dropping nuggets like Carmelo went to Rucker Park. Now we eating from state to state, we scrape the plate. I put my eggs in a basket, took a leap of faith. I took a chance, now we grow and see the impact. Decoding success with special guests, now let's bring Matt.
Kel, my friend, welcome to the show. You're an inspiration, brother. All the work that you put out into the world from very long ago to now, dude, you're still crushing it, man. Love to see it. So welcome to Decoding Success.
Hey, what is happening?
Love to have you, man. I want to jump right into this. I have done a lot of research. Obviously, listen, from a millennial perspective, dude, you were in every household, man. And then I had to do more research because I know that you were still doing work and love to see what you've been doing. So my first question for you is faith-based. I want to go down this route with you. Okay. Why has faith been such a monumental aspect in your life?
Because God has always been there for me. You know what I mean? Through the ups, through the downs, his trust never changed. He's being there for me never changed. And so for me, it was always like, I want people to understand the love that God has for them. Because, people go through so many things in life. And I want them to know that, because so many people, mental health is serious right now. And so many people are looking for love, looking for acceptance, looking for just motivation to get up in the morning sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's like, yo, if you know how God feels about you and know that you were special when you were born, and that you are amazing and everybody was born for a purpose, in your story is part of his story, then that's what's so important. You know what I mean? And that's something I had to find out. I didn't always know that. And so I feel like a big brother or a big homie, like, let me share. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I respect that.
Yeah.
How do we believe that? You were mentioning, and I don't necessarily remember the exact words, but it really struck a chord with me, because truthfully, if we wake up every day, we are blessed. Right. Yeah. If we're born, like the odds of being born are insane. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, like, how do we be grateful for something like that? Because it seems so common. I'm 29 years old. I've woke up every day for the past 29 years. You know what I'm saying? It's very common.
Right. Yeah. You have to look at it like, okay, God, gave us breath. You know what I mean? So with him giving us breath and we having this gift of life, I always talk about, like, life is a gift. So when you look at life as a gift, when you receive a gift, what are you doing at that moment when you receive a gift? You're celebrating. You know what I mean? You're celebrating something, whether it's a party, a friend, or something. So if you look at life as a gift, then it changes your whole perspective. And that really helps in life. That helps as motivation in work, career, family, finance, whatever. Because if you wake up saying, yo, this is a celebration, what I mean? No matter what, I have the joy. No matter what happens, I'm waking up like, yo, let's get it. I'm excited about today. Then when you have those negative thoughts, it's kind of like, nah, I'm just excited to be here, better than the day before. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us go through things. Like, I've had friends that are not here anymore. I've been sick before. I've been like, so I know what that feels like. So to even think that, oh man, I could not be here. You know what I'm saying? Even with the pandemic right now, a lot of people are seeing that, where they're starting to think about that. That's where they're starting to, change their life choices, or, do that thing they always wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because now it's a real thing. Like, oh, life is a gift. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we view life as a gift and celebrate it, even when we're experiencing the turbulent times, right? Because that's a difficult part. And maybe I'll even go two-part question here. It's hard to buy into God's plan for ourselves when, maybe you're going through a breakup, or, you messed up in business, or whatever the case is, right? Like it gets hard to believe when the times are tough. So I'm curious to get your take there.
Yeah. So faith is believing in those things that are not seen. You know what I mean? So you're believing in the blessing is about to come. You're believing in whatever you're believing in. You're saying, God is going to make this happen for me, right? So as you're going through a hard time, as you're going through a negative time, you have to have the strength and have the faith to go, okay, I'm going to get through this. You know what I mean? I'm going to get through this. And the way that works is you got to try it. Like real talk, you just got to try it and believe it. And when you do it, then you could go back and be like, okay, I went through that for a reason. Like, bro, when I went through the hard times of my life, when I was suicidal and I was going through things and divorce and all those different things, and I was going like, yo, why am I going through this, Lord? Like, why am I going through this? And then when I got to a point of the things that I dreamed about, and, you know, having a beautiful marriage and wonderful kids, and then having all these things happen in my life that was a big change from my past, then I was able to look back and go, I stayed believing in the hard times. And when I stayed believing in the hard times, now I'm here at the blessing. That's confirmation. That's a testimony. And now I go, when a brother comes up to me and he goes, yo, I'm going through this hard time. And he's going through something that I actually went through in my past that I've overcome, then you realize, oh, that is the whole part of life, like helping others. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you can do this by this. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. You know, and that's even why I wrote the book, because people were asking me a lot, like, what do you do every day? What do you do in the morning? What do you do to get through the hard times? And that's what I put in the book, where it's like affirmations, Bible verses that helped me, you know, stories where you can read about it and see what happened in my life and how the Lord helped me get through it. And then I have a part in there called Go Get Those Blessings, where you apply it to your life at the end of it. And I love that. Yeah, I have you do something like, you know, if it's a coworker at work, and every time you see that coworker, you know, they're mean. You know what I mean? And so it puts you in a certain energy, right? But then what I do is I go, okay, today, after you're done with this devotional, I want you to be nice to that coworker, no matter what they say. And don't do your usual reaction.
That's not easy.
I know, bro. And then after that, what I have them do is I have them do a hashtag of that actual day. You know what I mean? Where it'll say hashtag forgiveness, hashtag blessed mode, so they can share it with other people. Because I was like, I want this devotional to help others via social media, because devotionals help me out so much. And I just want people are searching all the time. And I just want them to, like, if they're searching for a hashtag for forgiveness, pain, hurt, whatever, blessed mode to show up. That's what I want. You know what I mean?
Love that. Let's dive into the book. So blessed mode, 90 days to level up your faith. Mm-hmm. Why write this book at this point in your journey?
Man, it was important for me in my life. You know what I mean? Very important. Like, even with me being a youth pastor and then also still working in the entertainment business, is really deep. You know, that was a hard decision anyway. You know what I mean? And what was deep about it, though, I went to the Lord a lot to really ask, like, are you sure you want me to do this? Is this what you want me to do? And I spent a lot of time doing that because people spoke it over my life. Like, my pastor spoke it over me. People were speaking over me when I was a young kid. And I just was like, no way. Nah, not at all. But it was a time when I was in prayer and I was meditating. And the Lord told me, he said, okay, Kel, I want you to preach. I definitely want you to do this, but I want you to stay in the entertainment business because there's so many people that need it in the entertainment business as well. And you've experienced so much and went through so much. I want you to be able to tell your story within preaching and doing that. And so I just decided to do it. You know what I mean? And I had no one to like look at that was doing it, that was currently having a television show, that was currently, you know what I mean? And I was just like, well, who, and what's funny is Fred Rogers came up, which is, Mr. Rogers. And I dove deep into his life even later, like after I was, ministering. And I realized like, yo, that was his ministry. His ministry was the Mr. Rogers show. And I preach about that a lot, where worship is showing your respect and your obedience and your love for God. And you can do that in so many different ways. And so in the church and outside of the church, it should be an ongoing thing. And that's what Blessed Mode is about, where it's saying, put God in everything in your life. You know what I mean? Your family, your career, everything, and it will really work. I've done it the other way. I know it's crazy the other way. You know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
I love that. Now, how do we begin to put God into everything we do? Right. I use myself as an example all the time on the show. 29 years old. Listen, I have "In God I Trust" tattooed across my chest. I've been to church, went to Catholic school my entire life outside of college, but I can't say that I've put God in everything I've done. And oftentimes I found myself turning to him when I needed him versus when, things were great. So I'm curious, for someone listening to the show, what's your advice to start implementing that and to start incorporating him in every area?
Yeah, man. So, man, it's funny. I preached on this where I saw a post by someone, and they put on the post. They said, "Yo, when somebody's going through a hard time, or they lost all their money because they started posting about God, or they're posting about Jesus. They're going through some stuff, and they're going through a hard time." And so at first I got like, "Yo, that's bogus. Like, why would they just post that?" And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's true. You should go to God when you're going through a hard time, when you're going through something, horrible in your life. Yes, go to God. But then I started going, but then there's so many believers that go to God when there's good times. But what is wrong with this post? Like, why did he do this post? So then instead of getting angry about it, I started going, why did he do that? And I went, oh, because maybe a lot of believers are not talking about the blessing or talking about adding God in when things are going good. You know what I mean? They're not thanking him. They're erasing it. So it's like things are cool now. I'm comfortable. So now I forget. And I just erased everything that he was doing when I was down crying and in tears and all that stuff. And so for me, it's really where you have to go, you brought me this far by my faith, and you're going to bring me even further. And you have to understand that we're all spirits, right? So if we're spirits in a spiritual realm, when you pray, they're working on your behalf. Heavenly Father is working on your behalf, right? As you pray. So if you stop, praying every day, things can come up. You think the enemy is not going to just not mess with you anymore? You know what I mean? Or the enemy's not going to try. And then now you're running back going, hey, so for me, I'm always going, protect my family because, Lord, you know what's up ahead. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't know what's up ahead for this day, for the next 30 minutes. So I want to make sure I spend time with you first. So then all the things that, because Kel mode, it's anxiety, it's stress, it's all these different things that I would do. So I go early in the morning first to the Lord to take all of that to him. And he takes it away from me and comforts me going, oh, okay, my family's protected. I'm protected. I'm free from anything. You know what I mean? And as you do that, it's really like a pre-workout. You know what I mean? Where it gets you ready for your day. Like when you go to work out, you want your pre-workout, you got to have your earphones. I want you to do the same. Like when you put on your clothes, right? Putting on your clothes and you wouldn't go outside naked. You know what I mean? Right. Okay. So then if you're looking at it in the spiritual realm, right? You gonna go out there naked? No, you want to be covered in the armor of God. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that you are covered and your family's covered. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. And so for me, learning that process, and after banging my head up against the wall, trying to figure out things on my own, when I started to have faith in God, people started to come to me that are believers that, love God, that would, confirm prayers that I was having, or things would happen in my life and connections would happen with me praying and trusting. You know what I mean? And then I go, sure. Yeah. And it's like, I have a prayer book where it's kind of like, I look back at it years ago and it was stuff that me and my wife had been praying about. And I got like tears on like certain things, like paper, you know what I mean? But I keep it because it's a remembrance of the things that God has done. And some stuff I forgot about. I was like, yo, I prayed for that. Look, now that's happening. I prayed for this house. I prayed for that. Oh my goodness. You know what I mean? He never.
For sure. That's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah. I love the way you framed it. Like you won't go outside naked. Why go out? Why start your day without the Spirit? And getting that word going. That's a beautiful way to frame it. I appreciate that. Sure. I want to touch on something that you had mentioned. You said that you were praying and, hearing God speak to you. Now, this world it's busy as all hell, right? Like it's crazy. You could attest to it. If you live in a major city, you can attest to it. How do we get quiet? Now, I know you mentioned meditation.
Mhm.
Obviously, meditation for some works. It's a muscle for sure. But how do we get quiet enough to hear what God is actually saying to us?
You have to, it's like, okay, it's like a diet. Do you know what I mean? Like when you say, hey, I want to lose some weight, it's not just gonna happen. You gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta get up. So in the Bible, it says faith without works is dead, right? So if you're saying you have faith, but then you don't take action into what you're doing, it's almost like praying, having a good time at church, because you go to church, so you know that, and you having a good time at church, and then you go outside into the world, and then all the craziness happens, and then you're back into the same old habitual habits. You know what I mean? Like responding to someone that, you know, angers you or this, that, and that. You know what I mean? So that is why you have to tap in and say, if I'm going to do this, God's like my trainer. I need him. You know what I mean? And I need him every day. So I always tell like my teens that I preach to, like, it just doesn't have to be in church, and it has to be like a big moment of like, oh, like literally you can pray at any moment when you feel it. You know what I mean? Just stop, close your eyes, pray. It's just like, but like people stopping to think about what they're going to say. I had a buddy that does that all the time. He does it in meetings too as well. But like we're having really business meetings. We'll ask him a question, and then he's like quiet on the phone for like at least 20 seconds. And we're like, bro, what are you doing? And then later he was telling me, he was like, I'm talking to the Lord. Like literally, even within my career, I'm talking to the Lord to get the right answer of what to say. So you could say, Lord, what are you trying to teach me in this moment? Because there's no mistakes, there's just lessons. So like, what are you trying to teach me in this moment? And that's awesome to have that security, to feel like I can turn to someone, because some people don't have anybody to turn to. Some of their family members are crazy, everything is nuts. And it's like, but when you're part of the royal family, like meaning the Lord, the divine, he loves you. So why wouldn't you tap into that? And the enemy wants you to forget that. The enemy wants you to forget, oh, no. Remember what you did this last week? Remember what you did yesterday? Remember all this craziness? Remember all that? Now you stay in your pain. No. No. You can change the atmosphere. You know what I mean? You can change the atmosphere by your words that you speak. Some people do it that way, bro, where they're like, they'll walk in and they had a good time praying, right, in the morning and all that stuff. And then they get to their workspace and then they start talking bad about themselves, or, man, if I didn't do that today, if I didn't do that, oh, today's a bad day. Or, you know what I mean? Like, no, say, today's a wild day, but the Lord's going to get me through it. Today's crazy, but it's going to change. Hey, what do I need to pray about right now, Heavenly Father? You know what I mean? Like, think of it in that way and it changes everything. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's one thing, if only one thing? So if someone picks up this book today, they listen to this episode, pick up the book. I know a lot of people are going to pick up the book, but they could only take one thing away from it. What would you want that one thing to be, and why?
The one thing, everyone was born for a purpose.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because you are. Everyone's born for a purpose. God has a purpose for you. It's either to change someone's life around, whatever it may be. But the thing about it is that you got to figure that out. Like I talk about blessed mode like a video game, right? Because I used to be a gamer. I still gamer nowadays. But it's like when they design games, they call it God mode, right? For the designers, when they would go inside and they could, have like a little code, like up, down, left, right, stop, you know what I mean, with Nintendo. And it was like, you can get in and see what's wrong with the game and check bugs and stuff like that within the game, right? So within this, it's like, so when you get into that video game and can do that, now you know the code. So you know what the designer did in the game. So if you do that with blessed mode, when you connect to the designer that designed you, then it's like, yo, I got a cheat code on life. You know what I mean? Like I can really get through certain things, and the enemy wants you to like bother you, so you forget, and all your stress, you think about that. You got to change your thought process. You know what I mean? When negative stuff come up, you got to replace it with positive. And our Father only wants positive things to happen in your life. You know, you read the Bible just once, you're gonna see that. You know what I mean? That's
For
it.
sure.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
if God only wants us to experience positive things, why do those turbulent things happen?
Oh, yes. Okay. So things happen in our life, right, to make us learn, okay, and to grow your faith. Because a lot of people will go, oh, well, if you say that the Lord only wants something positive to happen to me, then why did this horrible thing happen? You know what I
Mm,
mean? Why did this horrible thing happen? And it was like what I told you earlier, how you can help someone else. You might be looking at it in that moment like I can't stand what I'm going through. I hate it. You know what I mean? Like, bro, like when I wanted to take myself out of here, it was like, yo, like, okay, so I grew up on the south side of Chicago and I grew up around a lot of gang violence. My best friend was murdered. I have two uncles that were murdered, you know, and I still had to get on television and go, welcome to Good Burger, home to Good Burger. And no one knew what was going on in my family life or what was going on. You know what I
right.
mean? And through life, there were other, traumatic things in my life that I went through, but I'm still, giving this face and putting a band-aid over certain things, right? And so, but when I started to go to the Lord with my pain instead of like going to devices, because people don't blame that, right? They'll go like, oh, well, I'll go drink, I'll go smoke, I'll go do all these drugs. Well, that leads to a lot of other crazy things, addiction, you killing someone on accident because you were driving, like all those things that happen with that. But then they can't think of like, oh, well, the Lord just wants something positive or to teach me something through this. And it does so much, because as I was going through it, like I told you, then when I said, okay, I'm going to trust in you, Lord, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm losing everything, or losing my mind. So let me try this. And even you said, like, when you're in those dark times, that's when people go, you know what I mean? Heavenly Father, right? That's when they go. So why is that? Because we're spirits. You know what I mean? We're connected. We took away everything else. When all the options are gone, then they go, God, but why wait to the last moment when it's kind of like you could be with him? He was there in the hard times. He was there in the good times, the ups and downs. He's always there. So turn to him. You know what I mean? Turn to him. And there's a reason. There's no mistakes, just lessons. And even when there's something very painful that goes on in your life, know you're going to get through it. And when you get through it, it can be a testimony to help others. That's what happens within my book. I never thought that I would write a book. I never thought that I would be a pastor. But now when I'm preaching, I can help others. Like there was a school shooting with one of my teens, and I was on Dancing with the Stars at the time. Okay. And so I'm on Dancing with the Stars, and there's a school shooting. So then the pastors called me up and was like, oh, you need to call one of your youth because they were there at the school. I said, okay. So I prayed with the family and I prayed with her. And then I had to preach that Sunday, right? And as I was going to the Lord, like, what am I going to preach about? Because kids are really hurting right now. It's a lot of like school shootings happening in California. And then the Lord reminded me of me going through what I went through in Chicago, with losing a best friend to gun violence, with losing, my two uncles to gun violence, and then all those things. And it was like, oh, I'm the perfect person to talk to this teen at this moment of how to get through this, and to let her know that I've been through it. You're going to be able to get through it. You will have your joy back. And we all prayed together, and I told her my story and told her my testimony. And it was just a beautiful day and a beautiful moment. And that's what I'm telling you. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
At the time, we might not understand it, but it's happening for a reason. And even though it could be a hard reason, it's definitely happening for a reason.
Yeah. I most definitely agree with that. Now, Kel, you brought up the word purpose, and you mentioned that we're all here for a purpose. I 100% agree with that as well. What's your advice for finding your purpose?
For finding your purpose. Now, a way of doing that is two ways that I've looked at it, right? It's when you decide like this, you have this, you dream about it. You think about it when you wake up. You think about it when you go to sleep. You have this dream, and it's all positive things, right? And you're going, yo, I just love doing this. This is what I love to do. And you feel like a kid again when you're doing it. You know what I mean? And you're excited about it. And so what you do is that then now in your spiritual self, go to prayer about it. You know what I mean? Pray about it. Go like, Lord, I love doing this thing. You know what I mean? I love doing this. It's something positive in my life. I'm excited about it. I feel like this is my purpose. You know what I mean? And then go to scripture, right? To see if it lines up. You know what I mean? And he'll speak to you through a pastor, through the Bible verses and the word, you know, to connect it to your purpose, right? So now you can go, okay, Lord, help me through this so that I can now do this, because the purpose is yours. You gave me this amazing idea anyway. You gave me this purpose anyway. You know what I mean? So that is the way I look at it. And it's like, you start to know like, okay, this is it. You know what I mean? This is it. This is what I want to do. And then at that point, there's an obedience that needs to happen, because now, you know, the enemy doesn't want you to do that. Stress doesn't want you to do that. Past doesn't want you to do that. You know, now that you found it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like everything's trying to stop you. And that's the point where people give up. You know what I mean? Where they give up on their dream and they go, this is way too much. You know what I mean? Like, you know, or they get church hurt and they go like, oh no, this couldn't have been what the Lord told me to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, you're right there. You know what I mean? Continue to go ahead and do it. If you know in your heart that this is what you need to be doing, you know that it's positive, it's not hurting anybody, it's not hurting yourself, and you can see it clear as day, go for it. You know what I mean? That.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now you mentioned the turbulent times you've experienced, suicide, depression, addiction, so on and so forth. I want to go back into your journey here a little bit. And I want to talk about when you felt like you were on the edge a little, you know, at that part of your life, when you were on TV, you're crushing it from such a young age.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you didn't have anyone to talk to at that point?
You know what? It's a thing of like, of course, there are people in my life that I could have talked to, but it's the embarrassment that we have. You know, there's this thing of like, when you're on television and then there's something going on, especially as a celebrity, you're like, oh, I don't want people to know this fear of mine, this thing that's going on that no one knows about. You all just know the character. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, but then from a celebrity standpoint, it's like, they only know the character. They don't really know me. You know what I mean? And that's the hard part when you're adulting as a child actor. That's very hard, because it's like, who do I trust? Who loves me for me? Do they just love the character that I play? Or do they really love me for me? And then I'm a bit of an introvert, because now I don't want to show people the real me because they only know the character. Whoa. You know what I mean? And then all these things that I'm going through in life, I don't want you all to find out about. And so then there's this addiction or things that you get into to try to figure it out. And what the thing is about it is that having that love and knowing that this is a job. You know what I mean? And there's going to be other jobs. And that was something I told the kids on that when we brought it back. And now producing it, I told the kids something I wish was told to me. And I told them that when you were born, God made you special. This show is not the thing that makes you special. So you're going to go through a whole bunch in your life, career moves, other things, but know that this is a job, so that way they won't get hurt. Because as a kid, you think this is what it is. You know what I mean? As you're going through it, if no one tells you, and then you start to see like producers or, you know, certain actors or people that are like, you know, that are your bosses in your career, that do something to you to make you, you know what I'm saying? You feel betrayed. And you're like, oh no. But then when you realize like, oh, this is a job, they're doing what's best for them in that moment, and they're making their choices based on whatever choices they believe in. And when you understand that, then you go, okay, all right. So you don't put all your trust in men. You know what I mean? You start to go, oh, I have a good sense of self, which means my spiritual self. And that took me a very long time to get to, but I'm thankful I got to it. So now I can help others. You know
Absolutely.
I mean?
So
Yeah.
is the main lesson from that, in your perspective, that you're more than an entertainer, you're a human being first? Just like, when people get out of like the NFL or the NBA, we talk to them all the time here on the show. They're like, you
Mhm.
know what? After I retired from the major league sport I played, I didn't know who I was. They kind of lost that identity. Is that what your biggest takeaway is?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. It's like you have to find a good sense of self. Who are you? You know what I mean? Outside of this talent. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Because we're I heard someone say we're human beings, right? So what are you being? We're not human doers. It's not
Right.
the do that is the purpose. It's the being. You know what I mean? So you got to really look at that. So when you wake up every morning, am I being the father that I want to be? Am I being the person that I want to be? Am I being the pastor that I want to be? The friend that I want to, you know what I'm saying? And with being, feeling everything, meaning that the empathy for others. You know what I mean? In your heart. You know what I mean? Because love conquers all. So that's like the realness of it. And who is all love? God. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's like it's really that when you go into it with a loving thought process, it really changes everything. You go, oh, hey, this is a job, but I am here for a purpose, and I'm on this set for a reason for this time period. And then after that, I'm on to something else for a time period. There's always a different level. That's going back to the games where it's like there's a different level
For
for
sure.
you to achieve, for you to conquer, to get to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, Kel, what's a question you wish more people would ask you, and how would you answer it? And I bring that up mainly because obviously you're working with youth. You're producing. You have a million and one things going on. I'm sure you get a million and one questions. What do you want to be asked, and how would you answer that?
Oh, I could never say like what I wanted to be asked because it's a thing of you never know what people might come up and ask you, and so I'm always open to giving them the best answer that the Lord gives me. You know what I mean? Through things that I've been through or things that I've learned through my faith. So it's more of a thing of like have at it. You know what I mean? I want people to get it. You know what I mean? I never want to be the type of person that just goes, you do this, you do this, you do this. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, like it's like I'm gonna tell you my story and what I've been through and what works for me. And then now I want you to apply it to your life, but you have to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so if you have whatever question you have, let's figure it out together. You know what I mean? Even if a fun question, hard question, I think with this pandemic, that's been a lot too, where everybody's had those real conversations. You know what I mean? Like because we're in house with everybody, and it was time for the real conversations. And I think that has been beautiful. And I think that's really what it's about. Like, let's have conversation, let's fellowship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what Jesus did. He went around to everywhere. You know what I mean? Having a conversation with people, fellowshipping with people that, religious, they would go like, oh, you're talking to a thief, you're talking to this type of person. But it's like, yeah, because I'm letting them know how to change their life around.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's like fellowship with everyone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
For sure. No, most definitely. I see on my end that people, and I see honestly two sides of the spectrum, but getting to your point, a lot of people opened up to the idea of actually talking about things, going to therapy, being open about maybe being in a dark place, so on and so forth. So as much as, the pandemic has caused destruction and pain in a lot of people's lives, it's also opened a lot of people up and connected a lot more people, because going back to what you said earlier, like we are human beings, right? Like we are humans first, and ultimately we're more connected than we even know. So it's a beautiful thing to experience that firsthand.
Yeah, man, we're all family. I'm meeting you for a reason. We're having this conversation for a reason. Someone's going to see this podcast for a reason. It's like when you look at life like that, it's like, oh, okay. So every time I wake up, back to that, I literally have a purpose. You know what I mean? I have a purpose. You meet everyone for a reason, and your choices are so important. That's the other thing I want people to get from this, your choices. The choices are important. You know what I mean? Because you can control your choices, but you can't control the outcome from those choices. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure that the choice that you're making is a positive choice. And back in the day, my choices weren't always positive because out of anxiety, fear, stress, or whatever it may have been. You know what I mean? And so now that's why I take the time back to go to the Lord within prayer before I make my choices. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kel, I know I need to get you out of here in a couple minutes. I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
First one being, what's a piece of advice you didn't want to hear, but proved to be true over time?
A piece of advice I didn't want to hear. That I didn't want to hear. You know what? It's the advice of, I'll say it like this: when people hold you accountable. I used to get really, upset at the accountability when someone like points out like, well, you said you were going to do this and now you're not doing it. You know what I mean? And then I would get angry about it. Like if it was a plan that I put together and I told this person about the plan, but out of love, they were just going, hey man, you're not doing it. But I would always react in a way of like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know I messed up. Okay. All right. But now I look at it like, oh, that person is holding you accountable. You know what I mean? For what you said. You know what I mean? For something that you said that was, you wanted to do this positive in your life. So they're just reminding you, like, stay on the course. Stay on the course. Yeah. So don't get angry when people are holding you accountable for something that you said that you wanted to do positive for yourself.
For sure. Being impeccable with your word. Absolutely, man. Exactly. Now, last question for you. If Kel Mitchell makes it to whatever year he wants to live to, he hops on as many podcasts, produces as many shows, hops on as many shows, stages, books, whatever you want to do, but you could only be remembered for one piece of advice. What would that one piece of advice be?
Wow, that's a great question, man. It's a great question. You know what? Someone who was unapologetically him. You know what I mean? And also saying that my real self, meaning my spiritual self. So unapologetically, you know what I mean? To go after my dreams, go after what I believe in, everything that God told me that I can do, I went after it. And without any like doubt. And when doubt came in, I went to the Lord. He said I could do it. So I did it. You know what I mean? I want that to be known so that way people that would see it, you know what I mean, or read about it would go, you know what, I'm gonna do it too. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take this leap of faith. I'm gonna go after it. Yeah, it's the crazy things going on in my life, but yo, Kel said that I could get through it. You know what I mean? And I saw him do it. So let's go.
I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, Kel, we talked about the book, Blessed Mode, 90 Days to Level Up Your Faith. You have anything else on the horizon you want to make people aware of while we're here?
Yeah, man, I have a movie that's coming out called Adventures in Christmasing. It's with Kim Fields. It's part of VH1's Naughty or Nice like movies. They're doing 5 movies all back to back. And so I love Christmas movies. So when I got this call, I was just like, oh, totally. I'm down. Let's do it, VH1. Let's do it. And, Kim Fields is like a big sister. She directed Kenan and Kel. So I got to play her little brother, which was an easy thing to do. So it's a great movie. It's one of those love Christmas movies. So go check that out, November 29th. Check it out. Super excited about that. Book is out December 14th. Excited about that. And then a lot of other great things that are coming on the horizon that I'm super excited about too.
I love that, man. Kel, listen, appreciate you, brother, for hopping on here. Major impacts are made from individuals like yourself that spread words like this. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to you directly. I know that I'm going to have people connecting with you, so be on the lookout for that, man. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. Love the platform that you're doing and just your positivity, man. So yeah, keep going. Yeah,
appreciate it, man.
Born in 92 on the block with the Sharks. Come from a different cloth, y'all would get ripped apart. You want a diamond, then you gotta get it in the dark. We dropping nuggets like Carmelo went to Rucker Park. Now we eating from steak